Hello, Greg.
Hi, Furbs.
How are you doing?
Great, and you?
It's been so long since I've seen you because this COVID's given us a hard time.
Yeah, it has.
So it's been weeks and weeks and
Yeah.
weeks. But, hey, good to see you, my mate. So, you know, I was sitting and thinking at home that we have, in our lives, we have so many good friends. So at junior school, we change best friends like we change underpants. All the time, we chop and change the flavor of the day. And possibly through high school and university, you have some best friends as well. But for the last, I don't know, many years now, you have been my best friend.
Wow.
Yeah, no, best friend. So we have, there's been so much water under the bridge. We have done so many things together. And we could sit here, in fact, for hours. We have a half an hour to try and pack all these wonderful things we've done. Let's start at the beginning. When you arrived at St. Peter's, you arrived with this bushy moustache. You are a person of slightly darker complexion, and I think the first impression, I remember saying to some of my mates, saying, this guy who's arrived here, I remember him. I remember meeting him at St. Martin's, and I umpired a game of cricket with him. You know, he wasn't sure of the rules. I can remember on one occasion the ball pitching meters outside leg stump and hitting the boys' pads, somebody appealing and Greg saying, yes, you're out. And I had to say to him, listen, I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way. Anyway, so you arrived at St. Peter's with this bushy moustache, and I said to my mates, yeah, I remember Greg Royce. But look at him, he looks like an Iranian terrorist. And that was the sort of one impression I had in my mind. I thought, Joe, this guy's different. I wonder how we're going to get on. Anyway, time went by, and I'm sure you recall yourself that I was housemaster of Founders Boarding House.
Yeah.
And at lunchtime, teachers used to come up to the boarding houses for their meals and so on.
Yeah, on Waveney and on Founders.
On the Founders side.
And the housemasters all sat on the Founders side.
On the Founders side.
And the rest of the staff sat on the Waveney side.
There you go.
And then I immediately got, well, it became apparent to me that the normal staff, the teachers, did not go to the Founders side where the boarders sat with the housemasters. They just didn't go. And it seemed to me that they weren't welcome. So I continued to sit with the rest of the staff on the Waveney side. And the other thing I noticed was that the condiments on the table, on the Waveney side, there was tomato sauce, I think mustard sauce, salt and pepper, and that was it. And on the Founders side, though, there was the tomato sauce and the mustard sauce and the salt and pepper. But there was also Worcestershire sauce, HP sauce, chili sauces, and so on. Yeah.
And fancier jams and whatever.
And marmalade.
Yes. So we had that Seville orange marmalade, which you particularly enjoyed.
Indeed.
But it wasn't on the Waveney side.
Exactly. And I waited for 2 years. Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
And then on Wednesdays, after lunch.
No, tell me about how come I didn't get to go and sit there for 2 years.
Why was that? It wasn't through lack of... We thought you were ignoring us.
Well, I felt like the rest of the staff that you needed an invitation. The housemasters here carry weight. They carry weight. Yeah. They run the school.
So did we eventually invite you, or did you invite yourself?
I think I mentioned it to you, and then you said, no. I think you told me then that you thought I was being standoffish. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Please come across. But then, so you started coming to lunches on our side, which was great. But then on Wednesdays, we used to go into the boys' common room for coffee and cigarettes.
Indeed.
Well, we didn't invite you to that. We thought after lunch you would simply join us in the common room and come and have coffee with us. But you waited for an invitation for that as well.
Yeah, you're right.
So it took several more months till you came to that. Once that happened, then everything was perfect. You joined us on a regular basis, but not forgetting to go to Waveney. You still went across there.
Yeah.
So thinking back to those boarding house days, do you remember the Gap students?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anyone who stands out in particular that comes to mind that you remember?
Fibs, there were just so many great guys, terrific youngsters that they all spring to mind. I remember how much the boys loved them. The boys absolutely loved having them there. They were like big brothers and so on.
Yeah.
And you used to tease the Gap students. You used to tell them all sorts of tales.
Oh, gave them a hard time.
The boarders will remember this. Was it Dom? Who came out and he'd never ever seen flying ants before, termites.
Hannigan.
Yeah, Hannigan.
The big boy.
Mark Hannigan.
Mark Hannigan.
Right. He's still in touch with the school. And a flying ant came in one day while we were eating. I think it was supper time.
Yeah.
And he jumped back from the table. He nearly upset his food. And
Picked up a chair, like a lion tamer, warding off the flying ant.
Yeah, coming through the window.
Yeah.
And then you grabbed it, and you said to him, "What's the matter?" And he said, "It's these things." And you grabbed one, pulled the wings off, popped it in your mouth, and ate it.
That's it. That's it. Well, there was also the story of him with the vampire bats that I told him lived in the plane trees. And I remember throwing itchy balls at his window one evening, and I could see the curtains twitching, and he was peeping out and having a look to see what the heck was going on. Anyway, the next day he told me that, sure, these vampire bats had arrived, they'd come to his window, and that he was packing his bags and going back to England. I had to reassure him that it was me throwing itchy balls at the window and not vampire bats trying to attack him.
Fibs, I remember something else about with the boarders. When a boy came up to you at lunchtime with his plate, and I can't remember, I think it was lasagna or something, and there was a big pile of salad.
Yes.
And he held it out to you and he said, "So I've got a worm in my salad."
So I said to him, "My boy, you just don't know how fortunate you are. You've actually got a whole bunch of extra protein here." And with that, I wrapped the worm up in the lettuce leaf and ate it.
I can remember his face.
Yeah, he just about freaked out. He went home and he told his mother, he said, "Mr. Nothard eats worms." But yeah, there were many funny occasions like that. We've been on so many trips. Greg is the knower of all things on this planet. If I start off, he knows about food, how to cook it, how to prepare it. So we've had many braais and lunches together. They're always very interesting occasions because you don't know what you're going to get. And they're always great. He is the knower of the red juice or the white juice, the wines. He knows everything about wine. But he uses, what do you use me for?
So they won't know that you don't like wine, or you don't drink wine normally, but you've got a very honest palate.
Yeah.
So if I want to be sure that my take on a wine is right, I give it to Furbs to taste. I give it to you to taste, yeah. And then you'll tell me whether it's got class or not. And the other thing that you're unerring about is detecting sulfur in the wine.
There we go.
Yeah. Immediately. So
the trick is, if I taste the wine and I start coughing,
sulfur,
we know that there's a lot of sulfur in the wine.
Yeah.
Anyway, to continue with the fact that you are the knower of all things, so it's food, it's wine. Something I've appreciated over all these years is traveling with you in the bush. It's not just the big five. It's the little five. It's the grasses. It's the trees, all those other sort of plants and things that you find in the bush. Look, there are times you can exaggerate like hell. I mean, we've driven on the road and crossed a bridge, and he said, "Did you see those 5 crocodiles basking at the bottom in the river?" There was never a crocodile there, but man alive, he convinces you that they were. You might even reverse and go back, and he said, "Could you see the tracks in the sand? They've gone into the water and disappeared." So, I mean, that just makes it so much more fun.
I remember one particular trip that was quite hair-raising.
Yeah.
When we were out in Northwest on a reserve, a 23,000 hectare reserve that was closed, and we wangled our way in.
Atherstone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were driving. It was just yourself and Pam, my Pam and Hillary, that the old boys will remember. And I can remember driving up a hill on a dirt road. There were no other cars anywhere. And Hillary shouting, "Stop, stop." So I stopped, and then out of the corner of my eye, then I heard her shouting, "Go, go!" And out of the corner of my eye, I could see a black rhino, no more than, at that stage, 10 meters away, coming full tilt to us.
You see, here comes the exaggeration. It was probably 25 meters
Oh, no,
at that
come
stage.
on, Furbs, man.
Anyway, it got to closer than 10. Carry on.
Well, I remember, do you remember when it pulled up?
Yes.
Because we didn't have a chance to go.
Yes.
And we could all see the feet covered in orange dust as it put them down. And then the stones from when it hit the ground, hitting the car and coming in through the windows.
Yeah. No, that was scary stuff. But just seeing that black rhino was amazing. I mean, I had hardly come across many black rhinos up to then. But we traveled from there eventually for about, not far, another kilometer, and we came to a waterhole. And blow me down, what was drinking at the waterhole?
Another black rhino.
Another black rhino.
Yeah.
And next to it was something that I will never forget, because it was the first time I had ever seen this creature in my life. But to find the second black rhino within minutes of the first one, and then a brown hyena.
Yeah.
That was just unworldly.
Yeah. And then mixing with politicians in the bush as well.
Oh, wow. Perhaps I'll start the story. I can't remember the name of the town, but Greg and I took off to go on just a one-night trip, a Friday night away from
Saturday.
school.
Saturday. I fetched you from St. John's. You were reffing hockey.
Correct. So I was reffing, and we left from there. Was it Marble Hall, the town?
Marble Hall, and you called it Albuster Saal.
Albuster Saal. So this place had recently been opened, from what we could gather, or certainly there was new accommodation there. And we were given...
And it was huge. It was 9,000 hectares.
Yeah, brilliant. So we arrived there, and we were given a cottage-type place, which was brand spanking new. Can you remember the sheets in that place?
Yeah, Egyptian cotton.
Egyptian cotton sheets. It was just ridiculous. But anyway, so we were there, and we did a drive around in the afternoon. And we went to the dam, where we saw a whole lot of dead fish lying on the side with their carp.
Yeah, they were silver carp, this size.
And then we came across a big SUV. And next to the SUV, there
were several SUVs, 3 or 4 big Land Rover, what do you call them? Discoveries.
Yeah.
Big black ones.
Yeah. And next to these were a whole lot of sticks with a little V fork at the top, with their rods placed up against them, and but there was not a living soul there.
We thought they were local papgoeiers until we looked
yeah.
at the cars, and then we thought, no, we can't figure this out.
Very fancy cars.
Yeah, and there was even gazebos set up and so on,
So anyway, we didn't know what it was all about, so we went back to the camp. Before we left the camp, we had asked the rangers whether there was any problem with baboons.
Because we had seen baboons outside, in the bush right next to our little chalet thing.
They said there's no problem. You can unpack your food. There's no way that the baboons are going to get in. And when we arrived back at our accommodation, as we were driving up, you get that sort of sixth sense feeling. And I said, Greg, there's something strange going on here. And we went to the kitchen door, opened it, to find absolute disaster.
Chaos.
The fridge was lying on the side. The door was off.
The door had been torn right off.
Yeah, it was ripped off. The most incredible thing, all the glass shelving was lying on the floor. None of it was broken. But lo and behold, every single beer I had taken, only 6 of them, had been opened, and some of them had half the beer drunk out. Some of them had been knocked over and it had spilt. My meat had been chewed. The milk carton had been bitten. So basically our stuff was destroyed.
You put a bottle of brandy, I think.
Yeah.
So I know the old boys, when they were at school, I'm sure they had different views about what we drank and whether we drank it all. But anyway, here it's all coming out. Did you put that bottle of brandy right at the on a little shelf on the wall?
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah. So that was broken. And then we found.
Basically, there was almost nothing that we could eat.
Yeah.
And I had wine that I'd packed somewhere else. But your beers and your brandy were gone.
Gone.
Yeah. So we phoned the camp manager, a lovely woman, Lydia.
Lydia?
Lydia, yeah.
Yeah.
And she came up and she looked at the mess and gave us $100.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure whether that would be enough. And then she brought a team in to clean up.
And off we went to our Buster Saal.
And it was dark. It was getting dark.
Yeah.
And we were worried because we thought the shops are going to close, bottle stores will be closed. So we drove out. And then we went down through the bush to the gate, out onto the road, and we had about 15 k's to drive to the town.
Yeah.
And as we went along that road, police cars were passing us with their lights on.
A whole convoy of them.
Yeah.
Must have been 10, 12, 15.
Yeah. Then we got into town, and we found a shop, and it was run by Pakistanis, and they didn't have meat or anything. They had chicken feet. So we thought we might have to go back and eat chicken feet.
There's no chance I was going to do that, but anyway.
And then we thought, we found a garage shop, and then we managed to buy everything that we needed. And then we went to the bottle store. And as we got to the bottle store, it closed.
It closed.
But the garage security guard at the bottle store was really kind. He said, "Oh, shame, you guys, you should have been here 2 minutes ago."
Yeah.
And he said, "But if you go across the road, there's a shebeen."
So off we went to the shebeen.
Indeed.
And we went inside. Well, it was quite not an unnerving experience, but a different experience.
Well, it must have been the same for a black person going into some white area where there were only white people there.
Yeah.
And we were the only white people in the black shebeen.
Yeah.
And there were guys playing pool, and the music was pumping. Yeah, and we got unwelcoming stares.
Yeah. And we went to the bar.
Everybody, hello, hello.
We were greeting nicely. Hello, how are you? We were come to buy some beer.
We went to the counter.
Yeah.
And then there were some quite aggressive black guys that came and elbowed us out the way. And then a guy came out and helped us, ignored the guys that had pushed us out of the way. Anyway, you got a 6-pack of beers.
Yes. So we got our stuff and we were heading out. Now I wanted to take a photograph just to prove where we had been.
Yeah.
Well, the moment that camera came out, boy, did we get some looks, and we were out of there.
No, they chased us.
Yeah, we were out in a flash and a blur and gone.
So then we went back, and then we had a fabulous braai, which started at about 10 o'clock at night, but there was music.
Yeah.
So here we were in this beautiful nature, and there was this flippin' pumping music.
Yeah.
So eventually we got so cross. I got cross. I phoned Lydia and said to her, hey, this is not on. Turn the music down. So eventually the music went down. We were high up on a ridge.
Yeah.
There was a cliff below us, and the old former accommodation was down there. Real old sort of apartheid style, manicured lawns and bungalows and all that sort of stuff, which we couldn't see at night. So then the next morning, we had fun. We made a song that's now become famous in the school.
Aha, it was the birth of the song called?
The Butternut Song.
The Butternut Song.
Butternut, butternut, can't get enough of butternut. Okay, so then we walked down there the next morning, and there were all the police cars were there.
Yeah.
And we said to them, what's going on? And they looked at us as if we were stupid. And they said, well, Jacob Zuma spent the night here. With the Premier of Limpopo.
That's correct.
Yeah. It's incredible.
So we have one claim to fame, that we managed to tell the president of the country to tone down his music.
Yeah.
Greg, listen, it's been fantastic chatting to you.
Thank you, Furbs. And I've valued your friendship so much.
Salagash, le?
Yeah, boy. Hambagashle.